I want to train to go to the Olympics, and if I'm not training for that, I don't want to do it.
That's Mary Theisen-Lappen, 9-time All-American thrower turned American record-holding Olympian with an unconventional journey in weightlifting, starting at an age that most elite lifters are retiring.
Starting as late as I did, like the chances of me winning the Olympics, probably not very high. Honestly, the chances of me making the Olympics when I started at my age, probably not that high. There's a lot of freakishly strong people in track and field.
In this episode, we break down the brutal process of qualifying for the 2024 Olympics.
My body felt really pretty terrible, and my brain probably felt worse. I had 7 meets, including Pan Am Games, in 1 calendar year. This is gonna be so fun. We get to travel the world, we get to go to Argentina, we get to go to Cuba. Nobody gets to go to Cuba. And then by basically like Saudi Arabia, we're like, this is the worst thing we've ever done. Then by the time I got to Paris, I was like, sweet, I can't go through one workout without bawling my eyes out because I'm so depressed and I feel like shit. So like if I can get through that, I can probably get through anything.
How training for the 2025 World Championships is going.
Since the Olympics, like I feel like I've actually been able to train. I think 5 clean and jerks over 150 in one day, like that's the most I've ever done. It's the first time I've really been able to like dial back and be like, okay, we're gonna like actually learn technique and stuff. Now we have time. You're still getting stronger, which I sometimes don't know how.
Her experience dealing with body image.
I spent a lot of time in my life like hating myself and hating what I looked like, wishing I was something that I'm not. I basically spent my whole childhood being told I was fat, and now I just get told I'm fat by strangers on the internet. It doesn't bother me anymore because it's like, first of all, no one would ever say the things they say to me on the internet in real life. Most days my body can do things that very few people can do.
And what the future holds for her.
I hope that I can like use what I've done in the sport and the attention that I've received. I can maybe be an inspiration to people that maybe didn't have that before.
I'm a little inspired right now.
And of course, I had to ask, are we thinking about another run at the Olympics? Welcome back to the Last Set Best Set podcast. I'm Coach Brian. I'm the owner of Big Ben Strength, and I've been teaching Olympic lifting for 11 years now.
And I am Coach Calvin. I'm current captain of Lindenwood University's Olympic weightlifting program, as well as a coach through Big Ben Strength.
And today we have a special guest for you guys, the strongest guest that we've ever had on the podcast, Mary Theisen-Lappen. She was a 2024 Olympian. We're super excited to have you on. Thanks for joining us, Mary.
Thank you for having me.
So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm curious to know, how did you get into weightlifting? I know you kind of transitioned from throwing into weightlifting, but a little bit of an unconventional start in the sport.
Yeah, so I finished throwing in 2014. Honestly, my plan was to take the summer off. I finished my last meet at US Championships in Sacramento, California. I did okay. I didn't do as well as I wanted to, but I was planning to take the summer off and then kind of let my body heal and then pick up throwing again in the fall. And then I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, where I was going to do a year-long internship with their track team at UW-Madison. And then I just never picked up throwing again. So it was not really that I didn't want to. I just kind of, after I used that summer to kind of heal up, like mentally and physically and emotionally probably, I decided that I loved track a ton and I was going to coach it, but I was pretty much done with competing myself. So I spent that year just being an intern and doing things with the track team. Then I got into coaching my own team, which I did for 3 years before I started weightlifting. And then year 4 out of college, I was part of the basically like USA Weightlifting Transitional Athlete Program. So basically someone that I threw with in college, he was in my conference, his name's Kurt. He was being recruited to do weightlifting because he's freakishly strong. And he basically tattled on me and said that I should do it instead. So that's kind of how I got into it. I had a friend from high school coach me for a little bit until he kind of got too busy. He had a full-time job as a teacher and he had a gym on the side, and he definitely did not, it's not his fault at all, but he didn't have time to be picking up other stuff. So, I kind of got put with someone else for a little bit, and then I was with him for 2 years, and now I've been with my coach for 5.5. So, definitely a unconventional beginning to a new sport, especially at the age of 28. But I decided to try and it worked out.
That's awesome. So you started with that transitional athlete program. What did that look like? Who reached out to you? What was the process of getting involved in that? Because I don't think that they're really doing much of the transitional stuff now.
Basically what happened is Mike called me. So Mike Atone, I was at my apartment at the time, and Mike called me and he wanted to talk about weightlifting, and I was like, I'm good, hard pass. I had been like basically like exercising, I call it. I lost like 40, 50 pounds when I got done throwing, and I felt good physically. I felt like I looked good, and I felt like confident and just kind of like settled in my life. I was just about to get married, and just kind of feel like things were falling into place, and maybe we would try and have kids or, do like the adult things now that I was working and done with school. And then, so again, Mike just asked me, you want to try it? Here's what it is. And I'm like, well, I can't hook grip. We use straps in college. I can't do weightlifting. And he's like, no, you'll learn. And I was like, no, really, I don't think I can do it. So anyway, yeah, it was one phone call, and then I just ended up meeting with my friend, like I said, at home, and we did like a here's how to snatch. I knew how to clean. We cleaned in college. We squatted a lot in college, so I was super strong, and I have good genetics probably. So that was not really something that was like the hard part was getting strong, but just like learning the actual lifts, primarily the snatch. And yeah, I don't think we do much of the transitional athlete program. I think anymore, at least, I think that we've had a lot of success in finding other athletes coming in from other sports without actually having to actively look for them. Um, I do think we could find some other athletes, but again, I don't know. I don't know how serious they would be. You have to really commit when that program kind of happened, or like when I had that conversation, I really had to commit. I couldn't just be like, well, I'll try. Especially when you're coming from another sport and you have to basically learn everything from scratch.
Yeah, and I think also that transitional program really requires you to kind of like just stop doing one sport and start doing another. And it almost like needs a little easing into it, showing you can do dual sport for a little while you learn, and then make a decision once you get kind of good at it.
This is interesting. So when I was at the National Strength and Conditioning Conference this summer, there was a weightlifting special interest group like meeting, and Leo Totten was running that. And there was a guy there who they introduced as USA Weightlifting's new like talent ID guy. So essentially, I think it sounds like maybe they're trying to bring back what might have been the transitional kind of sport program. Um, but I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. So maybe they're trying to bring back a little bit of like that program, whatever it might have been in the past.
I'm curious to know, when you were a thrower, you said you had an experience with cleans and with squats. What kind of numbers were you doing on the clean? What kind of numbers were you doing on the squat?
I think my best, well, the lift that got me into like trouble, I would say, not trouble, but the lift that got me noticed, was I think it's a 135 power hang clean. Which is funny because that's like about what I do now. Like I think I just like back then I didn't really know how to slash like felt comfortable catching things low, so I just like caught it high, and we used straps, and might have been 130 actually, but anyway, it was like a heavy clean, and like when my team was like super strong. So like when I did it, I was like, that's pretty good. But like I had a teammate that did a 330, like whatever that is in kilos. She benched 150. Like she was a 2016 Olympian in the shot put. So like I was just around really strong people. So I was like, that's pretty good. But like I didn't think anything of it, and I didn't know anything about weightlifting. So I back squatted in the fives when I was in college, and so it's just like I don't know, I just thought it was, like, normal, which is funny now because it's I guess not. But I like I said, we just lifted really, really hard in college, so I was just used to really strong people, and throwers are so much stronger than anyone understands. So, I was just kind of exposed to it early, and just was like, and that's why I think when I was kind of not interested in doing weightlifting because I was comparing it to throwers, and like not that throwers are necessarily all stronger than weightlifters, but there's a lot of throwers that are stronger than weightlifters. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, not even the strongest thrower. How am I going to be one of the best weightlifters? But then you think about throwers can't really snatch, to be honest. So, which is, I've tried. I've spent years and years and years being told I'm bad at snatching, and Will always says like you're the third best snatcher in the United States. Like it's or in supers, I guess, in super history. So I'm not terrible. I have played catch up and I've gotten better and whatnot.
Was that kind of strange for you as an athlete to go from like everybody around you was kind of throwing and being really just really strong to kind of transitioning into weightlifting, what were you suddenly kind of just like top dog all of a sudden in weightlifting? Or was there like a while where you kind of had to work your way up the rank?
No, I definitely was pretty garbage when I first started. Like I I was like, this is like I had a bad attitude. I mean, I was excited about it, but I was like, this is dumb. Like there's these people that are half my size that can snatch all this weight and like do all these things, and it doesn't make sense that I'm this strong. Even just starting, like I was strong, I lifted so heavy for so long that I think it was pretty easy to come back strength wise. But no, I think my first meet I opened at 80, I missed it, missed my second one at 80, fell backwards, and then snatched 81. And then I think I did 125 clean and jerk my first meet. So it was like really silly. And that's kind of been like the reoccurring story is like how much of a difference is between Mary Snatch and clean and jerk. But we've closed the gap a lot. So I definitely was not top dog at first. Like I didn't I didn't do national. I've only done nationals twice. Just because when I was coaching track, when I was still working, I couldn't ever do nationals because it was during when we had, I think it was during when we had nationals for track as well, so I could never do it. Um, so I haven't done nationals many times. Um, so I don't know what I would have placed like when I first started, but probably it wouldn't have medaled.
Quick interruption of the video to announce our newest project, the Competition Strong Team on Train Heroic. If you're an intermediate lifter competing or planning to compete on the national circuit, this is the program for you. You'll get access to proven programming, daily video review, and coach messaging for $39 a month. Just click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen for a free week trial today. All right, back to the video. I posted a TikTok one time that said that the best weightlifters are not weightlifters, they're throwers. They just don't know it yet. And got a lot of heat for that. A lot of weightlifters roasted me for saying that. And I was like, no, I still stand by it. Why do you think, is it something that just has to go with throwing where they really just picked up that the Olympic lifts were really helpful? Other sports seem to be pretty behind on this, in my opinion.
So I think that just with the power that throwers need to produce, like it just makes sense to do. And granted, like a lot of throwers don't do it correctly, but they do it correctly enough to be able to get that transition from the weight room to the ring. And I think that a lot of throws coaches have kind of realized that, especially because the top throws coaches have their athletes do Olympic lifts. So, I mean, of course, it's like you see the best athletes doing something, like you see Ryan Krauser do something, like he's won 3 gold medals. Like you're not going to be like, I don't think I'm going to do that because the best guy in the world does it. Like people are going to do what the good people do. And like Ryan's very strong and Ryan does lifts like with a full catch. A lot of athletes don't do a full catch in the throws with a clean, especially. They do basically like a clean high pull situation, which I'm like, it's not really clean, but whatever. That's my opinion. But no, I think you're right. I think I always joke about like I need to get out of weightlifting before the other throwers realize it, because then I don't want to compete by a bunch of people that just started. But there's a lot of freakishly strong people in track and field and throwing especially.
It seems like there's some very like distinct differences in like the styles of lifting that throwers will use for the Olympic lifts versus weightlifters. So I kind of want to ask you, because I know what I see, but what do you think the major differences between throwing weightlifting and weightlifting are?
I mean, the biggest difference is that you have an hour and a half or 60 minutes to go and try to be the best like strength athlete you can be. Whereas you're spending 3 hours outside throwing. Like you don't have 3 hours to learn how to have the perfect technique in the clean because you are using that as an accessory to get better at throwing. You know what I mean? So yes, there are athletes that have a background. Maybe they had a really good strength coach in high school that taught them how to move well. But for the most part, like, I mean, yeah, they're gonna throw it off their hips. Like they're gonna throw it as hard as they can into their legs and bounce it off their legs and catch it, and it's gonna piss weightlifters off. But I mean, that's just how it is. We don't throwers don't have, even when I was coaching throwing, like I coached college track for a while and I didn't have time to make them the boat. Granted, I think personally I'm biased, but my athletes looked better than a lot of other throwers. But that's because I knew kind of what I was doing. Not all, even the throws coaches, like they have to learn how to coach throwing. They have to learn how to coach 4 different throwing events, 5 if you count the javelin. And they have to try to learn how to coach weightlifting because most throws coaches coach strength and conditioning for their athletes. the rest of the track team typically uses the strength staff, but the throws coaches are really like they want to coach their athletes in the weight room. So their coaches are learning a lot too. So they're trying to teach all of these things that are all super technical. And so there's just not enough time. Like they also have to be students. Like most of them are students. They have to go to school too. They can't just like only do sports stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That's really applicable. I think back on when I was in high school. So actually, how I got into weightlifting was through a throws coach, and I didn't do throws, but he was our strength and conditioning coach, and he actually like went to the Olympic trials in like the '70s and stuff. But I think I kind of I kind of like look back and I'm like, we didn't know what we were doing, but it's really useful to get somebody who has done those lifts. Maybe they're not even the most correct versions of the lift or whatever, but it's so many people's introductions to lifting. Um, yeah, that's just super cool.
One kind of I think this is a hot topic right now, just in general, where we see athletes using strength and conditioning different than people who are maybe more more in the field, right? Weightlifters will nitpick throwers' technique on their Olympic lifts because they're deeper into weightlifting. But we kind of see that too, just in strength and conditioning, where recently, like LeBron posted a video of him doing his snatch grip deadlift, and of course all the weightlifters are like, anybody who's like generally good at lifting is talking about this in some way. Do you think that this is kind of like a valid problem with strength and conditioning, or do you think that we should just kind of let top level athletes like this just do their own thing and clearly it's working for them, or do we have room to improve in the strength and conditioning side of things?
I think both. Like I mean LeBron's what, 41? Like he's not gonna be like teach me how to do a really good like snatch grip deadlift. Like granted it's not hard. Like that's not like a hard lift. And there wasn't I don't think a lot of weight on that bar. What was it like? I don't know, a green. Yeah, it was like the marshmallow plates and like a green or something. Um so like I think it's both. Like I think it's again like maybe a lack of time. Like not everybody has enough time to learn everything there is about strength and conditioning. It's like weightlifting. Everyone has their style. Everyone has their type of like teacher they learned from, and it's like you can't possibly learn everything from everybody and then be like, okay, I've learned everything there is to know. Now I'm gonna put my own thing together and decide what I like from everyone. Like, so I think, and then with like you said with LeBron and things like those type of people, yeah, that is a really goofy thing to post, but even with, like, social media, like, I'm learning this kinda right now, like, he got probably a lot of, like whoever posted it or whoever, like, saw it got a lot of engagement, got a lot of, like, comments, got a lot of things, that's the point of social media, right? Was it the best lift? Probably not. Does it make him a better basketball player? I don't know, probably maybe, maybe not. So I think it's just everyone has their own opinion on that stuff, like, LeBron will go down as one of the best basketball players we've ever seen, and no one's gonna care about that silly thing he posted besides us. You know, like I don't know. It's. I think I had my lifters do some stuff, and I've seen other throwers do things that it's like, what the hell is that? Like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, it totally makes sense, but it might not make sense to someone else. So I don't know. I don't think it's a problem. I think sometimes I think people just need to mind their business and just let people do what they need to do. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's what we're missing in weightlifting. Maybe we should all put that in our program, what he was doing.
One question I'm curious about from this transition into weightlifting, what were some of the big things that maybe you learned as a thrower that you applied into your weightlifting career? Not necessarily have to be specifics as far as technique or application of different methods of training, but there is a lot of learning that happens when you push yourself to become a really good athlete, even at a collegiate level. There's got to be some things that you learned at that made it easier for you as you transition into weightlifting. What were some of those things?
Well, the easiest thing, honestly, I feel like throwing and weightlifting they couldn't be any more related just because like you get 3 throws in the prelims, you get 3 throws in the finals, right? So you get 3 snatches, 3 clean and jerks, and if you don't do well, if you don't make one of your snatches, and preferably more than one, you don't even get to make the final. So I know there's meets, like most meets, we can still medal in the clean and jerk, but it's not, I feel like it's not that fun to just medal in the clean and jerk, and it's not that fun to not post a total. So that's kind of the main thing that I always brought because, I mean, you can't. you can't focus on something at the end before do the beginning part. So like I can't be thinking, and I've that's been hard for me because I am a clean and jerker. Like I can usually clean and jerk what I need to clean and jerk on the day to do what I need to do. And so I can't be thinking about that before I get my snatches in, especially when the snatch for me is so mental. So that's kind of the main thing that I've worked on is like in track. I spent 10, 11, 12 years, however long. I can't worry about where I want to place at the meet. I got to worry about making sure I get a good throw in to make the final. Like, so just being able to like take one step at a time. I always kind of think about it as a track athlete or weightlifter, almost like a checklist. So I checked off. I mean, obviously for me, I don't have to make weight. I mean, I do, but I have to cut my body in half to make the next weight class, so I'm not worried about that. Um, and so I make weight, check, eat my food, check, warm up, check, make a snatch, check, hopefully snatch more, check, and just keep thinking about it like check list throughout the day. Because if I start to think about too much towards the end of the day, and I've gotten myself into trouble in that, it's just not good. So I have to try to think about the first things first, the last things last, and everything in between has an order. And then same with track and weightlifting, finding a good coach. Like my coach has done a really good job to kind of keep things in check for me and make sure I'm not worried about the things that aren't my job that day. So, numbers, you know, things that I don't need to worry about. I need to go out there and lift the weights. I don't want to think about what I have to do for numbers. Like, and sometimes I'm thinking about it, but Will knows I'm thinking about it because he knows me very well. So yeah, it's just kind of like putting things into perspective of what I can do and what he needs to do, and then us kind of working together to make it happen.
I'm kind of wondering, like, from your track experience, what was a closer coaching relationship? Did track have quite as close of a, one-on-one coaching as maybe weightlifting has had for you, or no?
I don't think so. Like my track team was quite a bit bigger. And granted, like Will has a fair amount of athletes, but a lot of them are remote. And I'm having so much more individual time with Will. Like I've traveled the world with Will, like the two of us have went to so many places, and like I'm better at weightlifting. Like I was a really good athlete in track. Like I did really well and whatnot. I wasn't as good as I am with weightlifting, so I didn't have the opportunities that I've had in weightlifting. So, like travel the country with somebody when you're in a very like vulnerable state, a lot of times, or travel the world, I guess. When a lot of times I'm feeling pretty crappy and like I have to explain all these things to Will, like some things I don't want to talk to him about. I don't want to tell him like about like my menstrual cycle. I don't want to tell him about how I'm like can't get out of bed because I'm so like upset and sad and like things like that. But that stuff is very important for me to express to him. And so to be able to tell somebody that and trust somebody with that type of information is like we've gotten very close, and I've gotten close to his family because of it, and he's gotten close with my family. And so it's definitely something that I don't think I'll probably be many closer with many people besides Will than my family in my lifetime, just because of how important this whole journey has been. But I still loved my track coach. We got along really well, and she taught me a lot. She was an Olympian in the hammer. So another, like, I've been around Olympians my whole life, not my whole life, but all of college. And so that was kind of the goal from a beginning. That's when I started weightlifting. I was like, I want to train to go to the Olympics. And if I'm not training for that, I don't want to do it. Because like you said, at my age, I started late. And like I could do other things. I could try to have kids. I could try to like get a better job. I could do all these things. But like I said, I'd kind of been around Olympians. So I'm like, I want to try to be one too. So my coaches' relationship, the relationships I had with my coaches were very different, but both were like brought really good things and made me into a lot of the reasons why I am the way I am.
So two things on that. First, you mentioned that there's a lot of stuff that you kind of don't want to bring up with your coach, but just because of the nature of the relationship is kind of stuff that you have to if you want to make the relationship work long term, especially for your benefit as an athlete. Do you have any tips for coaches to be better about receiving that kind of information so that their athletes feel more comfortable bringing that kind of stuff up so that they can get a better, basically better as an athlete?
I think it's just like, I mean, the first thing is just that you trust your coach as a human being, right? So like that was a huge reason why I when I left my coach in 2020, I had a very, very short list of people that I wanted to talk to, and Will was on top. And so after I had a good like interview, you could call it, I guess, with Will, I was done looking. I didn't even ask anyone else. So I think just I have a pretty good. I mean, I did the college athlete thing, so I did the recruiting process. I knew what I was looking for, especially as an older person. I was like, I've already done this, you know. I also went to two colleges, so I did it twice. So like I felt very confident in my decision, and I again I feel like I did the right thing by choosing and going with my gut with Will. And that was a huge reason why I chose him, because he just gave me a really good impression of like what a good person is. And like I of course back then wasn't thinking like, what about when I find out I have like super horrible PMS and I can't function the week of that, and I need to explain to him all these things and how we're going to work around that. Like how am I going to work around the fact that I can't get through a training session without bawling my eyes out, you know? But like I'm not thinking about that in 2020 when I hire him, but I'm thinking about like, is he a good person? Is he somebody that I can trust with things that may not be fun to talk about? Like, you know, so I think it just starts with trust and going with your gut. And I think there's some really amazing coaches that, I mean, not to bring up anything bad, but some people just aren't good people. And so if they're an amazing coach and they know how to make you stronger, but they make you miserable as a human being, you're not going to be a good athlete. So if you can just like find somebody that's, and again, I think Will's one of the best coaches in the country, one of the best coaches in the world, you know, but he's also a good person. So it's those two things go hand in hand, and he takes care of things that he knows I can't take care of, and I try to lift the weights and I communicate with him, and I'm kind of an oversharer at this point, but that's what's made our relationship work for this long, because 5.5 years is kind of a long time, like to be with a coach. And so I plan on being with him until I'm done. So I think just like finding someone you trust.
So you mentioned that you had kind of a list of things that you were looking for in a coach because of your background as an athlete. Like that obviously sounds like a huge benefit to have going into trying to transition into your sport. You know, maybe somebody who was like just getting into it may not necessarily know what to look for in a coach. What were some of those things that you were looking for in Will that you found immediately?
Um, well, the two main ones were just like I said, he gave me a really good impression of what type of person he was. He shared on like social media a lot about his family. Like my family's very important to me. So I wanted when I hired Will, my dad had just had a stroke. So I wanted somebody that was going to understand things for when stuff happens, when I can't. Like I had a week. I hired Will basically a month after COVID started. I lost my job and my dad had a stroke. So I needed somebody that was like going to understand, like, hey, I'm having a really hard time getting myself to the gym right now because I don't know what's going to happen in the world or what's going to happen with my dad or how I'm going to pay my bills because I got furloughed from my job. So, like, can we just like work through that stuff and like I'll do the best I can? And so it's just like that was a really good thing. Like, he was very in that time when 2020 was going on and I was not doing well, like he was really good about like, let's do the best we can and let's, you know, let's pick and choose what we can make happen, and end up being really good for me. Like COVID, I feel so bad. COVID was such a horrible time for so many people, but like selfishly for me is my like trial period of being a professional athlete, and realized that's when I realized I needed to quit work because I got really strong during it. And then the other thing with Will is his background's the same as mine, so he was a thrower as well. So we kind of have like the same type of experiences and same type of, you know, like he would understand if I explained something, what it meant to me in track, or, you know, like a cue that's like, this is kind of what I was thinking about, and like that type of thing. So that was the first reason why I kind of started following him. I was like, oh, he coaches Heath through Hammer, like that's so cool. And he's from Indiana and I went to Indiana State and I had meets at IU all the time. And so I don't know. Those were the first two things that really like put him at the top of the list for me. And then after that, like I said, when I talked to him, I was like, oh, this is easy, you know. So I didn't even talk to anyone else.
Quick interruption of the video to tell you about the OlyStrong team. The OlyStrong team is my group coaching program designed to be affordable and effective. You'll get access to your choice of 3 or 5 days a week of proven programming, daily video feedback to improve your technique, and unlimited coach messaging to ask as many questions as you'd like, including the dumb ones. Most coaches charge hundreds per month in coaching fees, but I'm giving it to you guys for less than $30 a month. And you can try it for free for 7 days by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description below. All right, back to the video. Maybe one thing that kind of stands out to me there is like when you're looking for a coach, for anybody who's listening, like when you're looking for a coach, it sounds like it might not be a good idea just to focus on whether it'll work in the good times, but like whether it'll work in the hard times. Like that, I can personally attest to that too. Like you need to find a relationship with a coach, a coaching athlete relationship where it not only is effective when things are going well, but how do you guys work together when things aren't going well? You know, that kind of relationship may actually be more useful for you than maybe it's almost like show metrics that don't actually matter when things are going well. And then another big takeaway from that too is like if you find somebody who's got a similar background to you, you guys probably can make quicker improvements into your technique and your coaching because you have consistent analogies to pull back from. So like, I want you to do this in your lift and it's kind of similar to this in the throw. And you can immediately latch onto that. That is something I've personally found to be very helpful for me is figuring out how to relate to what's the easiest way that the athlete will understand what I'm trying to teach them. That really helps to kind of have a similar background there too.
You know, Aaron Pele, of course. Brian, I'm not sure if you know him, Mary, but he has kind of a lot of volleyball experience. And so I have a former college volleyball player that I coach, and I'll like send videos to Aaron and be like, hey, he's doing this. We cannot figure out a cue. Can you help me out? Like to explain this in volleyball terms. And he had some analogy that I did not understand at all. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to screenshot this. And boom, the next session, it just like clicked. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. I bet there's so much similarities in throwing.
So one question I kind of wanted to get into, maybe kind of speaking on some of the hard times that came up during this, is the last quad was a rough quad. Just in general, you guys kind of had to compete every 12 weeks. It seemed like, which is that's rough. A lot of people maybe amateur lifters are like, that sounds like the dream. That sounds great. Possibly different than that, you know. What were some of the things that you guys kind of learned from how rough of a quad that was, where you guys were having to compete every 12 weeks? What did you learn in that process?
So my experience was a little different than everyone else's as well because like I didn't make Worlds of 2022. So I didn't make that team. So that was the first qualifier for the Olympics. And so my first qualifier was 1 year almost exactly from the last qualifier. So I had 7 meets including Pan Am Games in 1 calendar year. So I also basically was coming back like from injury. So we go back to the checklist. So my first thing on the checklist was you need to heal up. Okay, that took forever. Next part of my checklist, do AO finals in Atlanta so I can make Pan Ams because I hadn't made Pan Ams. Go to Pan Ams in Argentina. The checklist, get this total so you can be the top stipend because I was still only on the $1,000 a month. So like each one of those was kind of like before I even started the Olympic stuff was like make the qualify for the team that you have to be on to make the Olympics. You know, like make the money you need to make so you don't get stressed out so you can make the Olympics. So like all these things happened first. And then for me, and it was for basically me, for Haley and Jordan, Taylor and Danielle, like basically everyone that had other people in their weight class, the next thing for us was beat the person in your weight class. Well, I was trying to beat somebody who had just hit a huge total at Worlds that I wasn't at, and then has medaled in 2 Olympics and made 3. So like my whole thing was Sarah, like the whole time. And so having to compete that often was, at first, it's funny. Like Will and I were like, "This is gonna be so fun. We get to travel the world. We get to go to Argentina. We get to go to Cuba. Nobody gets to go to Cuba. Like we get to go to all these like fun places." And then by basically like Saudi Arabia, we're like, "This is a worst thing we've ever done. Like, and granted, like Saudi Arabia was like 100 million degrees out and our shoes were melting and we had to wear full clothes because we're women. You can't wear like shorts there as women. So like it was basically like it turned into not like let's see how strong we can get. Let's see how good we can get your snatch to look. It turned into let's make sure we can make it to the next meet because your wrist is so messed up you can't even like basically before Cuba my wrist got really bad and basically I would clean up to like 145 like on Fridays and then that would be it. Like I couldn't do more than that. I ended up getting some weird like tendinopathy thing in my wrist. So it was basically like train as much as you can without getting worse because you don't have time to rest right now. Like so it was for Cuba, it was get through Cuba. I'm like counting down. I was like in the back room in Cuba. I'm counting down. I like take 130 in the back. I'm like, okay, I have 2 more warm ups and then 3 clean jerks on the stage, and then I get to take a week off. And I'm like, that kind of is what it turned into. And that was only my second meet. So it just ended up turning into like, I don't know. It was like amazing. And I hate to complain because it's like an experience of that very few get to have. But it wasn't all like super fun at times, and I'm like, if I get super sick, like I mean, it's weightlifting and I shouldn't go to the gym if I'm sick, but like I had to, so like I'm going in when I'm sick. I'm like, don't come by me. I'm sick. Like go away. Luckily I have all my own weights and all my own plates and or bars and stuff. So I can just tell everyone to go away. But I couldn't rest for like a year. And so then by the time I got to Paris, I was like, sweet, I can't go through one workout without bawling my eyes out because I'm so depressed and I feel like shit. So then I go to the meet, have a bad meet. Um, and then I'm not sure if I want to do weightlifting anymore. So it was just like the whole quad was every day was let's train today so we can train tomorrow. It was let's not do anything crazy today so it takes you out of training tomorrow because then we're going to be behind. So it was basically like stay in this amount of shape because you have to, and then we're going to go load weights you've never touched or thought about on the bar at the meet. Like that's going to be the name of the game, and that's basically what it was.
Is there any part of you that kind of looks back on that and is so for me personally, like I look back on really hard times like that and in the moment it's terrible, but then you kind of look back on that and you can use that as fuel to prove that you can do like really hard things. And you can push yourself to levels that you maybe wouldn't think that you would be capable of. Is there a part of you that kind of is almost like thankful for how hard that was in knowing that it's probably not going to be that hard again,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, I was pretty sure, and I know we'll probably talk about this later, but I was pretty sure my last meet for weightlifting would be Worlds this year. It was kind of like you made the Olympic team, like that's such a huge accomplishment. Like the chances of you making the Olympic team when you're you start when you're your age, you already were an athlete in another sport, like you're a full grown adult that's had a full grown job. Like my journey is very different than everyone else's. So my plan was kind of like go to the Olympics. Well, hopefully make the Olympics, do Worlds this year, have a huge meet, retire. Um, but that was before I kind of like realized all the things that I did do. Like if I can get through that, I can probably get through anything. So I was basically once I kind of like felt better, mostly emotionally and mentally, like physically I felt maybe a month later I felt fine after the Olympics. I was like, I actually feel awesome. Like I felt really good. I got really fat like towards the end of the quad. Like I was just like I felt slow, I felt fat, I felt sweaty, I felt gross. So I just lost weight and I felt better. Um but I wasn't like mentally and emotionally well for quite a while. So once I felt better that way, I was like my experience or my process to the next Olympics could actually be quite different because I don't have someone in my weight class. And I'm not saying I'm like a shoe-in. I'm not saying like I could make it my spot, but my experience could be very different. My experience could be kind of what it is in other countries. I could go have this huge total at the first qualifier and go weigh in a few meets. Like I never got to do that. I wouldn't have to compete every so often, I could actually like train a little bit. I could train really hard for the first one. I could pick other ones to train really hard for. I hopefully wouldn't have to be in like the world's best shape every 8 to 12 weeks.
Could you talk a little bit on what those the difference maybe between like a meet prep and then like a long-term build into like a competition? What are like the timeline differences, and what does training look like between those two kind of goals?
I mean, I think like as a coach, it's easy to be able to tell, like, it's the long term goals. Like you have to be okay with training through meets. You have to be okay with being like, this wasn't what we're supposed to do right now. You have a meet that maybe not be something you're super excited about to celebrate, but in reality, that wasn't the goal, right? So like I think as an athlete, I haven't had really that type of experience because, for one, I started weightlifting late. So I'm playing catch up from the very beginning. I start to get good at weightlifting. The pandemic happens, all the meets are canceled. Um, the meets started happening again. The qualification to make worlds was super, super weird for a while. And I was hitting like pretty good lifts, like in the mid 270 totals, and I wasn't making any teams. So like once the qualification changed a little bit and I made teams, then I have to basically I go to Vegas Nationals and I get really hurt and then I have to play catch up to get ready for the qualification. So I personally don't know if I've had like the best like I don't know if I'm a great example to like think about that because I feel like I have constantly been playing catch up. But now, like since the Olympics, like I feel like I've actually been able to train. Like, so this is the first time I'll be 35 in like 2 months. Like it's the first time I've really been able to like dial back and be like, okay, we're gonna train really hard. We're gonna like actually learn technique and stuff because now you've made the team. Like you've done the things you wanted to do. Now we have time. You're still getting stronger, which I don't sometimes don't know how. But yeah, I think it's just as a coach it's easy to understand, but as an athlete it's frustrating because you want to do really well all the time. Of course I wish I would have done better at meets and stuff in the qualification or whatever, but the goal was to make the team. So I am putting things on the bar that I could end up getting called for no lift, but I have to make the lift. It's like a do or die. So yeah, it's not the most. You could tell whoever wrote the procedure is probably never tried to do it, because it's not like super ideal. But from a training perspective, it's definitely been fun since I started training after the Olympics. I took a month off, and since I've been training since then, I'm like, oh, like this is actually like I feel really good. Like physically, I feel for the most part really good. Like I have some wear and tear. Like I said, I'll be 35. Like I'm a lot older than most people doing this, but yeah, I'm it's fun to actually like train and like compare where I was a year ago and how much better I feel a year ago and or 2 years ago, whatever it would be. But yeah, it's definitely different to train for meet and to train for like longevity.
And I think a lot of lifters will listen to something like this and hear like 12 weeks, that's plenty of time to train. What do you mean like you can't train for that? But then we always talk about from the coach's perspective, like, you know, that is essentially meet prep. That is like getting ready for the test. But that's not doing the studying, the building that actually leads to a really good performance. It's kind of just like rehearse. It's if you were thinking about studying, it's like taking the practice quiz just over and over and over and over again but not understanding any of the concepts. What are the things that you do differently, maybe now, for example, where you're focused on building for long term stuff to prepare for a big meet compared to what you guys were doing leading up to kind of every competition?
The main thing for me is just being more consistent. So like I used to have days like where I'd go up to, on Big Friday, which I now switched because I hate Big Friday. I hate like mentally I think about it all week and I'm like, I feel like shit on Friday. Why would I lift the heaviest on Friday? So like I've kind of like switched that a little bit with my coach and I try to go heavier in the beginning of the week and do a little bit more technical stuff towards the end. But I think with the difference in how I don't know how the last quad has went and how this one has went. Like every Friday or every big day, I'd be like, okay, I need to snatch like 118 to 120. Like I have to snatch this for this day, and I would have like 10 misses, but I'd be like, okay, I checked the box, I made the heavy lift. I like I said when I was feeling really really gross, I would be like, okay, I have to clean and jerk up to 150, and then I'm done. I'm calling it. Now I'm like, I mean, I did like when Calvin was there, I did five clean and jerks over 150 in one day. Like that's the most I've ever done, and like that's huge for me. Like I had, I think on Friday I've been doing a lot of EMOMs in the snatch because it gives me less time to think and I don't need a lot of time to recover. And so, I think I had like maybe 7 or 8 lifts over between 110 and 115 in the snatch, which for me is a big deal. So like just being able to be more consistent and focus on like a lot of reps within that range, that's when I feel confident, instead of working up to a super heavy lift one time because I know I have to probably feel those weights to compete. Now I get to actually focus on like, okay, I took 10 lifts, 10 snatches at 110 and I made 9. That's a huge deal. 90% make ratio for a heavy-ish day for me. Like that makes me feel like I'm figuring it out and I'm not just like hoping for the best, shutting my eyes and hoping it ends up over my head. So just being able to be consistent and being able to actually like get good. I mean, Will always says like today's goal is to get good training in. Like we want a good workout, instead of like in the last quad, it was, all right, we really should probably hit these numbers. And then I get stressed out. I don't hit the numbers and then I'm still like, I'm still not ready. So it's just been nice to be able to actually like chase consistency instead of chasing numbers that probably weren't super realistic for how I felt at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in a similar boat a few years back. I had an athlete who was doing pretty well as a junior, made a couple teams and things like that. But it was basically like 3 international teams and 2 or 3 national meets to qualify for these in like a year and a half period. At the same time, had a huge injury. He had a hernia that we had to like basically just wait to get a surgery on, because the recovery process was like pretty long, and so we wouldn't be able to do one of those teams or one of those qualifiers for a team. So really, it really did come down to just like, let's just see what we can do today, and that was kind of it. One thing I'm kind of curious on when it comes to this whole process is mindset. Will is putting a book out on mindset very soon. I think at the time that this is going to come out, that book on mindset will be coming out very shortly. Um, I'm curious to know what the mindset training looked like during that quad versus what the mindset training looks like now.
I think it's just similar, it's like my body felt really pretty terrible in that whole entire quad for the most part. And my brain probably felt worse. So just being able to like get through the day, like that was like a big deal sometimes, like get through training, like, be able to find one good thing. That's always Will's thing, is like find one good thing that happened today. My PT's good about that too. Like they both are, I'll be like, I'll take a lift and it's like I don't like it. And they're like, okay, well, that's one thing that happened. So trying to just focus on that when things are bad, and of course, like I'm really hard on myself. So there'd be days where I'm like, nothing good happened. I don't know why I'm doing this. Of course, I had a lot of days like that. But now it's like, I mean, my teammates joke, but they'll be like, you haven't cried in like a long time. I'm like, yeah, I know. Isn't that cool? Like, so it's, I'm trying, and maybe we talked about this, maybe we didn't, I don't remember, but I'm trying to just have more fun. Like, I'm trying to really channel the fact that I get to pay my bills with lifting weights. Like, I'm like trying to really soak in the fact that like I've made a career out of this and I'm fully aware it's not going to last forever, but I'm hoping the skills and the things that I've learned through it will carry me to the next thing, whatever that may be. So I'm just trying to just like have fun, and there's days where I'm like, this actually sucks. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this. But there's way less days like that now. And I'm trying to just like again have fun with it and try not to take myself so seriously, and like if I have a bad lift, be like, okay, it's probably because I did this, not instead of before I'd be like, it's because I'm horrible at weightlifting, that's why I missed it. It's like, no, it's because you pulled back really really hard. So I'm trying to just like, and Will is really good about that, and again, that's something that I couldn't have done this whole thing without him, because he is like basically a saint when it comes to the things that I've had to deal with mental health and stuff. I mean, we all deal with mental health issues, but like I just was not in a great mindset in the last before the Olympics, and like I said, he's basically a saint for being able to deal with me. So, um, that book, if anybody knows me really well and knows that Will got through that year with me, they should probably buy the book, because or however he's getting it out to people, because if he got through that, you should listen to him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's absolutely a great point. It's like, listen to somebody who was in the trenches, and I'm actually really excited for this book because it's something that I think is a weak point for a lot of coaches. They don't really know how to coach mindset for a lot of athletes, um, and much less they don't know how to coach mindset in the way that the athlete needs. I think that a lot of people maybe have a way that they have learned how to be coached, and so that's how they apply kind of talking about mindset and stuff. But if you're somebody who's a really good long-term mindset coach and you're talking to an athlete who does not operate or think in that way, then you guys may have very differing opinions on how to approach the sport. Um, I'm excited for that book. I really am, because I think it'll help a lot of athletes and hopefully help a lot of coaches who that is a weak point for.
Well, it has a lot so I've read it. I finished it last week, and I've done a ton of the stuff in it, but I didn't know how he was gonna, like, put it together. So, basically, like, there's a ton of exercises in there, which I'm like, "Thank God," because there's so many books that are like, "I don't wanna sit down and read a book or listen to an audiobook that tells me how to be better." Like, I'm really trying. Like, tell me how I can do it. So, like, it has exercises and it has, like, actual, like, work that you need to put in instead of being like, I just read this whole book and I don't even know what it said because I couldn't focus. Like this book makes it more like aggressive with the work that needs to be done in your brain and not only just in the weight room, you know? So I think it'll be super helpful for a lot of people.
I think a lot of books like this can turn out to be just like convincing you that you need to work on it. And then like there's no actual substance to the book. Where like this, it seems like, I mean, just with the free worksheets and the guides that have kind of come out that he's put out since then, it seems very much like results driven, like practical. What is the work that you need to do? Here's the work that you need to do, and actually go ahead and apply it. I really like that. I'm very excited for it.
A quick interruption to the video to tell you about something we've been working on for a long time, the 10-week squat program. One of the reasons I've been able to make progress in my Olympic lifts so quickly is through my strength reserve. As an 88 kilo lifter, I've back squatted 230 kilos or over 500 pounds. While we don't compete in the squat, having an excess of squat strength allows me to get in more training in the Olympic lifts as they don't fatigue me as much. And of course, if you can't squat a weight, you're never gonna be able to clean it. So if you feel like the squat is what's holding you back, be sure to use code LASTSETPOD, all uppercase, at checkout to get a 20% discount on your program today. No, that's pretty cool. I think we'll definitely have to get Will on here at some point to talk all about some of the topics in the book. I'd really look forward to that. You said a lot of great stuff there, Mary. But yeah, I think we can kind of like transition a little bit talking about like kind of the OTC, a little bit of what you were doing there in the last couple weeks. And USA Weightlifting will a lot of times host some camps for athletes getting ready to go to meets. So for instance, kind of this OTC was sort of your version of a camp going into Worlds. Um, I think I want to know, but also a lot of other people want to know what happens there. What's like a day in the life at the Olympic Training Center during a camp, or just a little resident stay that you might be doing there, and what does that look like?
I mean, it looks decently similar to what my life looks like normally, you know? So I wake up and the nice thing about well, there's a lot of nice things about there, but the nice thing is I don't have to put any effort into what I'm gonna eat that day because I get to just like put on clothes and go down to the dining hall. The dining hall is like very, very nice. The people in there are amazing. And then they just do a really good job of making sure we're putting good stuff in our bodies and not like having temptation to have like gross stuff for breakfast. It's also just like, it's hard to not treat your body very well when you have all these services right there, like a dining hall full of food you don't have to make. So kind of like, I don't know, just breakfast, maybe come back. This this specific OTC stay that I had, I would go usually to PT or do some like plyos and things like that with Laura, who's one of the strength coaches in there. So I would kind of alternate. One day I would do some plyo stuff with Colby and Ryan, and one day I would do PT stuff. So it kind of depend for the morning what I would do. Then probably go eat again. Maybe chill out just for a little bit, and then we'd do our heavier stuff in the afternoon. So, and then eat again. Um, and then maybe just hang out. Like, it's just nice because being there takes away the stress of like, not that it's like that stressful to do laundry and make food, but like, you don't have to think about any of it. It's just like, you get to actually just like do your sport and be around other people. That's the biggest thing for me is like, not that I don't train with people that want to be the best, but I train at the OTC, I train with like adults that are like the best at their sport, you know? At home, I train with a lot of kids, which is amazing, and I wish more kids were in the weight room, but it's definitely like a little bit different of an environment, you know. So it's nice at the OTC to have. It's nice for both, but it is nice at the OTC to have other athletes, whether it's wrestling or we had wrestling, cycling, boxing, like a lot of like sports that I've never really been around. And even though their sport has nothing to do with mine, and I really don't know what the heck they're doing, I do know that they want to be the best at what they're doing. And so that's kind of like something that we share and, kind of maybe chit chat about a little bit. So, like, what's your sport look like? Like, when's your competition? What's your qualification look like? Things like that. So, it's basically just like taking the stressors from everyday life and hopefully taking them away and putting you in a really beautiful place, beautiful facility, beautiful city, and trying to just focus on just weightlifting.
Yeah, that's definitely something I kind of learned when I stayed with Hampton. That was a big takeaway I had from living with him for a little while was how much the way he set up his life takes away like obstacles and takes away barriers to, whether it's you brought up like, oh, doing laundry or something. I mean, Hampton does his own laundry, but for instance, he was paying his little sister to like prep his meals for them for him for the day. So every night she'd make out, whatever quantities he said that he wanted. Like, oh, it's 250 rice and 6 ounces of chicken for this meal. She'd prep that, put it in the fridge for the next day, and so all he has to do is pop it in the microwave. Like, you don't realize kind of how much like a lot of these little things add up over time, and people just taking those little stressors away from you. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's cortisol or stress hormone, something like that, but it just really creates the best environment for focusing on what your job, the smallest portion of what your job needs to be, which is lifting heavy weights, and putting food down, because that's low key putting food down, kind of a hard job too, a lot of the times.
The people there too, like that was with my stay. I was there for a little over 2 weeks, and everybody knew my name. Everyone like knew when I was there till. Everyone asked me all the time, "What do you need? Like, is there anything we can get you? Do you have everything?" I'm like, "I have more than what I need." Like, you guys, just like for how nice they are, and they hosted like they one night we did the main chef hosted an ice cream party. So we used liquid hydrogen, or what is it, liquid nitrogen to make ice cream, and then had like all these toppings and stuff. So like they try to do things too. It's funny. I joked about I participated in more things at the OTC in 2 weeks than I did in 5 years of college. Like I was just like not like that social, and so it was just fun. It was fun to see like the other athletes doing what they're doing. It was like really really amazing for the people that work at the OTC, how nice they are to us and how good they treat us and make sure we have everything we need. And yeah, it's just like it's become probably one of my favorite places, so I'm excited to go back.
Yeah, that's really cool. I hope to one day make it out there and see kind of like sometimes they let people go tour around the OTC or that kind of thing, because it looks like such a nice gym as well. So that's really cool. And then we had another question as well, sort of unrelated to what we've been talking about. But I think you're a big inspiration for a lot of younger lifters. Now you've posted like a post that like went really viral recently. And like, what advice maybe do you have for lifters or just athletes in general that feel like maybe they don't fit the mold of what, like, I guess society sort of tells them they should look like as an athlete?
I spent a lot of time in my life like hating myself and hating what I looked like and like wishing I was something that I'm not. Like if people have seen my dad specifically, they're gonna understand that I was never gonna be a small person. And that's just how like science works, right? Like genetics. So like I think weightlifting was the sport that really like, which is weird because throwing is very similar in that way, but when I was throwing, I was 18 to 23. Like that's not when you feel fully like mature and like comfortable with yourself, you know? Like it took me until well into my 30s to really be comfortable with how I am and like really be thankful for what my body can do, because while there's days where I'm like I feel really fat and really gross, like there's most days my body can do things that nobody, like very few people can do. So I try to focus more on that. The other thing, like with mindset, and it's similar, kind of what we talked about, but with what we're talking about now, like I've tried to kind of reframe how I think about like comparing myself to other people when it comes to me as a human being, what I look like, what I am as a weightlifter. Like I think people need to realize everyone has something they're bringing to the table. Like I've been very, very lucky to have, I always say, like the world's best support system. Like Will always says that's my superpower. Like I have like a very, very supportive husband that like takes care of everything when I'm away, and I have really amazing parents and sisters, and like those types of things. A lot of people don't have that, so like they're struggling with like mental health issues that are coming from trauma they grew up with or things like that, or not a support system. And so like I don't have that. So the things that people that do have those types of things that they need to work through, they're probably tougher than I am sometimes, you know? So like I think it's important to like focus on the things that you bring to the table, even if it was really hard to get there, and just like lean into them, you know, like lean into the things that you're good at, lean into the things that were probably really like hard to learn and use them to your advantage, you know? So I've tried to use that to my advantage, that I basically spent my whole childhood being told I was fat, and now I just get told I'm fat by strangers on the internet. But like it doesn't bother me anymore, because it's like, first of all, no one would ever say the things they say to me on the internet in real life. Like, and if they would, I'd be like, are you serious? Like, you know, so like the things people will get behind a screen and tell a stranger is like pretty ridiculous. But luckily I've dealt with it my whole life. Not luckily, I wish I didn't have to. But because I did deal with it my whole life, like now I'm like, these guys are like, these people are dumb, like these strangers. But then again, not comparing my body or my journey to anyone else's, like it's really, really easy for me to compare my journey in weightlifting to the younger people in weightlifting that are like the top of the, you know, sport right now. I mean, I have a college degree, I have a master's degree, I've been in the workforce, I'm married, like I've owned a house, like I've done a lot of things that other athletes have not done. And I try to like make sure I tell myself that like my journey's different because of how I started, right? Like I started as an established adult, you know, and I decided to get into a sport that's super technical and super hard, and decided to go all in, and luckily had the support system to do that. And so on days where I'm like, I'm never going to be an Olympic champion, like I may never medal in the Olympics, those are the days I kind of think about like, I've been a college track and field coach that's touched a lot of people's lives. Like I worked full time and got a master's degree at the same time as I starting to weightlift. Like I try to think about like what Brian was talking about. Like I've done really, really hard things, and my weightlifting resume probably won't be as impressive as some other lifters, but I'm hoping my like resume as like a human being, as cliche as that sounds, is like super like awesome, you know, and I hope that I can like use what I've done in the sport and the kind of the attention that I've received, I guess recently in the last few years, I can maybe be an inspiration to people that maybe didn't have that before, you know. Um Realizing that bodies do look different in the sport, and we see a lot of like, especially with Instagram, like Instagram models and like people that have like really good editing apps and they can like fix their body and all these things. Like I try to kind of do the opposite, you know, trying to be as strong as I can be because it's fun to be strong, but also like show, I say like little girls, but also like little boys, like and young people and boys and girls, that it's cool to be strong, it's cool to be big. It's, you know, like I'm not gonna like die tomorrow because I'm fat, like everyone keeps telling me on the internet and this viral post right now. Like I'm actually like pretty healthy, you know, and I'm just strong and I'm just a big person. So I don't know. I think my role in the sport is not only just to be super strong, but also to be like a leader and an inspiration to people too.
I don't know about you, Brian, but I'm a little inspired right now myself. So
I'm like pretty emotional actually. I'm like kind of tearing up a little bit. But I really like what you said there about like it's not just about the athlete resume, it's like the people resume. And the athlete is just a part of that, you know, and there's still a lot of impact that you can have on people that isn't just related to how much you can clean and jerk.
Starting as late as I did, like the chances of me winning the Olympics, probably not very high. Like honestly, the chances of me making the Olympics when I started at my age, probably not that high. Again, my role in the sport, I don't think is just to lift weights. I think my role in the sport is to be a leader. I'm way older than most people on Team USA. Like I could be a lot of their parents. Let's be honest. If I was doing that young, I could be their parents. So like, I mean, I have a unique situation, and again, I'm trying to just like soak it in as long as I can, and hopefully one day I don't know really what's next. I'm kind of interested in I do coach weightlifting. I don't promote it much just because I like it to be kind of like on the not down low, like secretive, but I just like don't like to be too busy with it. Um, but I'm interested in maybe getting into more like maybe USOPC stuff or like, like working in sport and just trying to see like where that could take me. So I don't know. I think it's sport in general is kind of where I'm supposed to be.
Kind of like what you give to the sport, it'll kind of keep giving back to you in a way. And I think so many people want to just put their heads down and just work out really hard and try and get really, really good, but then they're left with nothing at the end of that journey. They don't have the support system. They don't have a husband or a house or career experience or a degree. They just are like, I'm just gonna work so hard, and then they get to the end of that journey and you're just kind of empty. I mean, maybe you have accolades and things that you've won, but it's about the journey kind of cliche thing, but a lot of times it really is. And I think that that's the reason that you've been able to continue weightlifting for so long, even after doing another sport, is that it keeps giving back to you in the same way that you give effort into it, because you're not just focused on like, oh, I need these numbers, and you're like, I'm gonna post some real ass, sorry, censor this maybe, but real ass shit about my life and about what being an athlete is really like. Um, like, here's the struggles I deal with. Like, this is what a real athlete body perhaps looks like. Like, here's all this real stuff about what being an athlete is like. And that helps so many people. And then in turn, in some sort of karma way, like that gets sent back to you over time.
I'm curious to know, what are your plans after 2025 Worlds? This is coming out right before the World Championships happen. What are we thinking about another run at the Olympics?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like I said, I think my goal was to train really, really hard for this Worlds, and I have been, and I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. Like I said, I've been chasing consistency, and that makes me feel pretty confident going into meets. So, um, I think my plan is just kind of do what I've been doing this year and have a little bit more fun with not only weightlifting but life as well. Like just like visiting people I haven't been able to see in the last however long, and whether it's family and friends, and doing like more fun stuff as well. And then I think once the Olympic qualification stuff comes out for the 28 games, I think it's at this point pretty impossible for me to not consider it, being that it's in LA. I joke about like there really couldn't be like a more perfect story, like where I like, I go to the Olympics in 28, of course, like God willing, nothing happens and I can actually like keep getting stronger and stuff. I'm again not saying I'm like a shoe in, but say I make the team and I get to retire on, a home game, like in a sport that I started really late. And I don't know, like that's what makes me emotional, is just like imagining what that would be like. And we talked about it a little bit before recording, but I had a really, really amazing support system and a support group in Paris with me, and that's not a really easy place to get to compared to LA. Well, granted, I've never been to LA. Maybe it's actually not easier, but it would just be nice. Like it would be the perfect ending to a really fun story and a fun journey if I could go. And I joke about like, and people go like, when Wes retired, he so nicely and politely put his shoes on the corner and at Pan Am's, and I joke about like if I retired, I would untie my shoes and like kick him into the crowd because I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with this. This is I'm good. But yeah, I say if I retire in LA, I'm not bringing any weightlifting stuff home. I'm giving it all away there. But yeah, I think that's kind of the goal, is just have fun and take it day by day, take it meet by meet, wait till we see what that qualification looks like. I can't do another one that looks exactly like the other one, or for the last one. I can't do that again. I know I can't. But I don't think it will. So at least with the lifters we have in the United States right now, I don't think that my journey to the next Olympics would look the same. So I'm definitely interested in trying for that one, and whatever happens happens, and I think it's going to be less pressure because I have already made one. So if I make another one, that'd be amazing, and if I don't, my goal was still to make the Olympics, and I did that. So
Awesome. Wow. Well, I mean, we're definitely all rooting for you, and would love to see you do another Olympics. But I think we can all pretty confidently say that whether or not that you do make another run, we're excited that you're a part of the sport either way.
No, I think that's probably a good place to leave off the episode. Yeah, this was a great one.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Where can more people find out about you, follow you, anything that you want to plug?
I pretty much just do Instagram. I don't do anything else. It's just my name. So Mary Theisen-Lappen, and yeah, I'm pretty active on there. People, you can mute me if you think I'm annoying. It's okay. My feelings won't be hurt.
No, we're not going to mute you. Calvin, where can people find you?
At Calvin Lackey 81kg on everything.
And you guys can find me at Big Bend Strength on everything. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
If you found this video helpful, then make sure to check out this video here, or this episode of the Last Set, Best Set podcast.